All right, so let's talk a little bit about satellites. Now, people claim that they've seen satellites at night, and I mean, I've seen things that moving across the sky at night. Also, there's been points where I'd be looking up and I would see a light of some sort going across the sky. Yes, sure. But as far as being able to confirm whether or not that's actually a satellite, as we've been shown by the spacefaring agencies, NASA in particular, we can't make that determination just by looking up and seeing a light. In addition to that, NASA's been caught faking so many times that I really don't trust anything that they have to say anyway. So if you do a quick Google search, you'll see satellites from NASA, and I mean, you'll see a lot of cartoons, CGI imagery, artist depictions. Then you got to ask yourself how exactly these pictures of satellites are being taken, as if each satellite out in space have its own satellite that follows it along to take selfies or something. Also, there's video of what seem to be satellites being launched from Antarctica attached to weather balloons. Then, of course, the last couple years there's been multiple videos surfacing of satellites, in quotes, crashing in South America. Then we have to take into consideration from all the data that we're given, these images that were given officially of how many satellites are actually supposed to be up there orbiting the Earth. Now, the thing about these satellites is that we're told that these satellites from these vast distances out in space are constantly beaming these crystal clear high def images back to the Earth from millions of miles away. Although I find it odd that we tend to drop calls in between cities, but that's neither here nor there, I suppose. Now, let's take a look at some of these images and give them a critical analysis. In particular, let's look at the pictures of Earth from space. Now, you'll notice that the pictures of Earth from these satellites are always sent back as, oriented as we've been taught to view the Earth. There's always the northern hemisphere is at the top and the southern hemisphere is at the bottom. We always see pictures of the Earth oriented this way when they're presented to us as actual pictures of the Earth, which I find odd because, well, here, let me get to this. One of my favorite go-tos when I speak about flat Earth is that bodies of water don't curve, that water seeks to find its level, that the surface of water is always generally flat. And the response that follows from the heliocentric enthusiast is typically in reference to gravity, or when I talk about water sticking to the bottom of a spinning ball, they'll talk about relativity, basically how the Earth is out in space and there's no up or down in space, things like that. Now, again, being that there's no up or down in space, one would have to wonder exactly how every single time these pictures of the Earth are given to us, how they're always oriented north at the top, south at the bottom. Some way or another, these satellites would have to be focused out in space and oriented properly each time to get these pictures to show up that way. This would mean that the vast majority of the time that pictures of the Earth that are being sent from whatever satellite being beamed back to the Earth from millions of miles away is always the preferable angle of the Earth that we have been taught in the educational system, and nobody seems to question that. Well, at least some people aren't buying it.
Nine rocks On the ground. On the ground. So you have ground in the ocean.
No. These are
At the very bottom you might, but they don't go above the water. They do not go above the water.
This is not the real one because that's fake. This is fake.
Well, yeah, but we're on this
I
right
didn't
now.
push it.
Do not push very hard. Because if you do that, then you're gonna. Do not push. You're gonna get dense.
Look, there's a little.
Yeah, don't push on this.
Now here's an example of a person zooming in on an airplane flying overhead. Now let's look at the factors. The camera is attached to a tripod. The tripod is stable on the ground. Stable tripod, camera mounted on top of it. The airplane is somewhere between 17 to 35,000 feet, roughly. Now the speed of the airplane is somewhere around 300 to 500 miles per hour. The man has to lock in on the airplane from the ground, and the camera is being used manually. It's tracking the airplane manually while it's taking the video. Okay, it's not by remote, not by a huge distance, just with those factors in place. 300 to 500 miles per hour, 17,000 to 35,000 feet. I mean, let's say 7 miles away, somewhere around there. Okay, and then the camera is in a fixed position on a tripod, locked in. Okay, and still he's having a hard time zooming in and getting a good lock on the airplane. Now, one video that I've been delving into, taking a really close look at, is the one from NASA's website where they show that the moon is transiting across the face of the Earth. And that was from the Earth Polychromatic Imaging Camera. This was back in 2015 when that happened. So that 20-second video, let's think about this. What NASA's telling us is that 20-second video took place July 16th, 2015. Over the course of that time span, basically, that time lapse was pictures taken over the course of almost 5 hours. And what they did, they spliced those pictures together and create that 20-second video that's being shown right now. Let's think about the epic for a second. That camera that was taking those pictures of Earth for that amount of time, all right, was said to be 1 million miles away. So it's this camera out in space, zoomed in from 1 million miles away. And they're saying it's been locked in for almost 5 hours, okay, 4 hours and 55 minutes, while the Earth is still orbiting around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. That means that this 20-second clip of those pictures being spliced together means that the Epic was able to track the Earth as it moved 329,372 miles through space. And it was able to take those pictures in such a spectacular order and splice them all together as if the Earth were in a fixed position. What I did, I went in a little closer and I pulled up the schematic for the Epic. And on the schematic, it shows a lot of components that are used to capture images. Okay, lots of that going on. But as far as propulsion and moving that camera around, moving that satellite to get those pictures perfectly locked in, there's only one means of propulsion, and that's at the bottom. Okay, the propulsion module at the bottom. Now, if we're out in space and there's no base, there's no foundation, there's no up, down, there's no left or right, there's no direction out in space because it's all relative, right? So there would have to be an exceptionally complex navigational system in order to keep that camera locked in on the Earth at that distance for that amount of time. If you can find the schematic, if you can find someone that can properly explain how a camera from 1 million miles away was able to zoom in on the Earth, lock in while the Earth travels through space, and is able to take pictures, these crystal clear high-def images, and beam them back real time, create this beautiful time lapse of the moon transiting in front of the Earth with only one means of propulsion and navigating this satellite. You let me know. I'm calling BS on the whole thing, personally. Now let's look at another aspect of this whole situation. The analogy I like to use in comparison to when items leave the Earth, what I've been thinking about now is, think of a person driving a car down the freeway at 60 miles per hour. Okay, if there's a fly buzzing around inside that car, the driver gets annoyed, rolls the window down. The fly gets sucked out of the window of the car. Suddenly, the fly is independent of the car. The car continues moving. The fly's out, buzzing over the freeway, back in the rear view. All right, so you got to ask yourself, is it possible that the fly can ever actually catch up to the car? Absolutely not. That's a physical impossibility. The fly cannot flap its wings fast enough to ever catch up with that car. Period. Point blank. Not going to happen. Now, if DARPA were to retrofit a microscopic camera and mount it to that fly, the way that the fly is moving through the air, if it were able to zoom back into on the car some way or another, do you really think that the fly would be able to take perfect pictures of that car in the same place and from the same position, the same angle, over the course of 5 hours? I don't think so. So with that, let's look at some of the numbers, okay? Did a little more digging, and this is what I came up with. Now, according to NASA, the Earth Polychromatic Imaging Camera, or the EPIC, was launched February 11th, 2015. Those pictures that were on the NASA website for that time lapse showing the moon transiting the Earth, those pictures were said to have been taken July 16th, 2015. Now, the amount of time between those two dates was 155 days. Now, 24 hours times 155 days gives us 3,720 hours. Now, with that in mind, we have to take into consideration that according to the heliocentric model, the sun is said to be dragging the Earth and the rest of the planets along through the solar system, through the infinite vacuum of space, at a speed of 514,000 miles per hour. Now, 514,000 times 3,720, okay, this means that from the time the EPIC was launched in February to when those pictures were taken in July, that the Earth had moved 1,912,080,000 miles through space. Well over 1 billion miles through space. Okay? The EPIC's independent of the Earth. Earth continues to move. Alright? But some way or another, in July, the EPIC was only 1 million miles away. Given the schematic showing us that the propulsion system was only in one spot, only able to fire that satellite in one direction, how exactly was it able to keep pace with the Earth at that speed? Was it being dragged in the sun's gravitational pull, maybe the Earth's gravitational pull the entire time? The propulsion system would not be sufficient to keep up with the Earth over the course of that period of time for that distance. There's absolutely no way. 1,912,080,000 miles is the amount of space through which the Earth had moved between February 11th and July 16th. And on July 16th, NASA says that the EPIC was taking those pictures from that fixed position only 1 million miles away. And yet, over the course of that 4 hours and 45 minutes, the Earth had moved 318,250 miles through space. Again, without any base on which the camera would rest, without any real-time manual orientation. Okay, we're talking about someone's operating the EPIC from Earth via remote from millions of miles away. And they believe it. I'm not buying it. I'm calling BS on the whole thing. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments section. I just wanted to share that with you, this little thought exercise. This is just something that I've been contemplating. Like, That part kind of doesn't make sense if you really, really think about it. How exactly would that satellite be able to, one, take those pictures without any real-time navigational system on hand, with the propulsion system only in one spot on that particular satellite attachment? And then how is it able to pace the Earth when the Earth is moving, 500,000 miles per hour? I mean, seriously. But this is the stuff that people have to believe if they're going to defend the heliocentric model. It's actually pretty ridiculous. But anyway, go ahead and leave a comment below about what you thought about the video. Just wanted to share that with you. Thanks for tuning in. As always, be good to each other, take care of yourself, and stay flat. I'll see you next time. Thank you. If you'd like to get in touch with me, please do so through my website, dmarble.info. If you'd like to support my efforts, please go to the tab at the top that says Health Store. Click on that tab. It'll take you to a storefront. You can register as a customer and start shopping. If you'd like to pick up some official Flat Earth Offensive gear, you can do so through teespring.com. The link to my storefront is in the description. Also, you can find me at any of these social media platforms. See you in the next video. Thank you.